Free information. Free DVDs.
Free DVDs?
Yeah, you want a free DVD?
The Earth flat?
We can go out and we can do our observations for ourselves and we can see that the Earth is flat. Like, people think the sun sets over horizon. This is one of the big ones for me. This is what you see with your eyes, but if you take a P900 camera and zoom in at 83x, this is what actually happens. It's called angular resolution. Our eyes can only see so far, so we perceive the sun as setting, when in actuality, all the sun does is fade away. And here's a video from NASA claiming they're in space. This is the Dragon SpaceX launch. This is gonna blow your mind right here. Look right in this area here. I'm not gonna tell you what to look for, but there's something gonna happen right there.
What is
So if they're in space, how they have a rat on this engine that's thousands of degrees, and how's it breathing? So this is what would happen to that spaceship if it was actually in space. This is what happens when you introduce a vacuum to something. And that's just a small vacuum. That's not the infinite vacuum of space. So this is what they teach us in school. This is the helio non-centrical model, as I've come to call it. So we're to believe that the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, and then going around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. Then the sun is shooting through the galaxy at 666,000 miles an hour. And then the entire galaxy is going through the Milky Way at 2 million miles an hour in a fourth direction. And yet we don't feel anything. All the stars are in the same place every single night. But we can look up in the sky.
No, they're not in the same spot.
Well, if you look at the same time at night.
Maybe so.
So like, let's say January 1st, you look up in the sky at midnight. January 1st, the next year, you look up at the sky at midnight. The stars are in the same place. And we can look up in the sky at night and we can see Venus. That's a video of Venus at nighttime. So if the sun is here and the Earth is here, Venus is between them. In order for it to be dark, we'd have to be facing away from the sun. So how do you see a planet that's between the sun and the Earth if you're facing the opposite direction? And you can do this tonight. Venus will be in the sky tonight. You can look up and see it.
Isn't it like the brightest star in space? Sky?
Well, they say Venus is the second planet from the sun. So if the sun's here, Venus is here, and then the Earth is on the other side. In order for it to be dark, we have to be facing in that direction. So how are we seeing something through the Earth on the other opposite side of it?
What do you think? I don't know.
So we're just out here giving away these little brochures. We're not here to try to convince
anything.
anything.
Don't fall off the Earth?
How do we know there's an edge? So this is a map of the Earth right here. This is the real map of the Earth. This isn't the globes that are in your classroom that you flip over and look on the bottom and they all say not for educational use. This is the actual map of the Earth. Think of the Earth as like a lake, and the continents are islands in the lake, and Antarctica is the shoreline of the lake that goes around it.
So when we fall off one point or another? Or what's stopping us from breaking that boarding?
So if you put a rat in a cage, what's the first thing it does?
A rat in a cage?
Yeah, looks how to get out. Looks for to escape. So we want to go there. We want to look. You know, we're human. We're curious. But you're not allowed to travel below the 60th south parallel.
Why?
The Antarctic Treaty, formed in 1959, says you cannot travel below the 60th south parallel. And there's 54 countries that have signed it. Do you know of any other treaty that has lasted that long?
I didn't even know about a treaty.
Exactly. Most people don't know about that.
The Antarctic what?
It's called the Antarctic Treaty. It was formed
yeah, I think I do know what it is. Yeah. Isn't it like a hole or something, like in the ice?
No. The Antarctic Treaty says you cannot travel below the 60th south parallel. Which, here's a map of the Earth, and that's the 60th south parallel right there that goes around the Earth. Because it's like a flat, think of it like as a pizza. Antarctica is the crust, kind of the wall that keeps everything in. And you're not allowed to travel there to even look.
Why?
You tell me. What if there's more land and resources beyond that? If we believe we're on a globe and there's a finite space and finite resources, then we fight amongst ourselves. That's why there's so many wars. But if there's more land and resources over here, then we wouldn't have to fight amongst ourselves anymore.
Right.
We
could just live freely.
Right. And they keep perpetrating like all these hoaxes. NASA it's up to $60 million a day now to perpetrate hoaxes like the Challenger. Remember how the Challenger exploded and all the people died? Well, we found all of the people. They're still alive, walking around with new identities.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And they say the Earth is a sphere. But if I can find a flat spot on a sphere, it can no longer be a sphere, correct? If it's round and I find a flat spot. So here's Lake Michigan right here. There's Chicago from 52 miles away. The formula for curvature on a sphere is 8 inches per mile squared. So at 52 miles away, even the tallest building should be hidden by 1,800 feet of curvature. Yet we can see the entire skyline.
I don't know about that one.
Well, think of like this right here. Here's a picture of a hotel.
Wait. I think you don't have those brochures.
Which ones?
I don't know. I have one of those brochures in my room. But it's the jet fuel streams.
Oh, it's on this right here. Okay.
Yeah.
You're thinking of this right here.
Yeah.
The
That
jet
one doesn't
streams.
make sense.
So that's what it would look like on a globe, which makes no sense. But if the Earth is flat, it all makes sense. That's the exact same diagram, but put onto a flat Earth. Which one makes more sense to you?
The globe.
That makes more sense? With all the streams going in all these weird opposite directions?
Yeah,
Not everything's circular and linear?
No. Because the streams, they don't travel like in a straight line necessarily.
Right.
And they don't distribute evenly.
But they do, though, because they're on the flat Earth. Things don't just bend and curve, you know? Like, what? The sky?
Right. Look at that right there.
There's no curvature. Like in this video here, we sent up a balloon 120,000 feet, and we can see that there is no curvature. The Earth is completely flat, and the sun is right above it, close and localized. And that's from 120,000 feet.
I might have to research this.
Yeah, I'm just asking you to look into it. I'm not here to convince you anything.
Yeah.
And here's some DVDs for you and your friends.
Cool. What is this? I'm gonna have to become a NASA person. A NASA person?
And you know, they just did an interview with a Polish astronaut. He went to the ISS, the International Space Station. He came back and they asked him, "Is the Earth round or flat?" What do you think he said?
Flat.
He said it was flat. But see, you don't see those interviews on TV.
No. That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Should I
You have any more questions? 'Cause I'm here every week, and
Every week?
I'm out here doing this. Yeah.
Okay, theoretically, if this is the Earth, what's under here?
We don't know. We've only gone down 8 miles. The Mariana
8
Trench.
miles?
The Mariana Trench is the deepest point in the ocean. That's 7.5 miles deep. The borehole 8 in Russia is 8 miles deep. Because we don't know what's below it, so I don't want to speculate on things that I don't know. I can tell you what the truth is and what I can prove. And what I can prove is that NASA's lying, and I can prove to you the Earth is not a globe.
NASA's sketchy. NASA's
Very sketchy. They lost all the telemetry for the moon landing. You know, all 13,000 documents.
Who was the space exploration people before NASA? All the black people.
I don't know of any space exploration agency
Don't?
before NASA, no. NASA was formed by Walt Disney and Werner von Braun. You didn't know that, did you?
No, I didn't. Cool. Is there like a phone number or something on here?
That flat fellow on YouTube is my YouTube channel.
Oh, you have a YouTube channel?
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
You're on it right now.
No. Can I look myself up later?
Yeah. You'll see that you were asking great questions and you got good answers.
Yes.
My name's Tommy. What's your name?
Jenny.
Good to meet you, Jenny.
Okay, cool. So, I don't know. I'm still like speculating.
Well, I'm not here to prove anything to you. I'm just here to give you the information to do the research for yourself. Because if I can convince you the Earth is flat, then you're no better off than when someone convinced you it's a globe. Do the research for yourself, critically think, and decide, make the observations and decide for yourself.
Okay, cool. Definitely something I'll do probably tomorrow, actually. Yep.
Like for me, I didn't just believe the videos I saw online and stuff like that. I went out for myself and I did tests. I went out to Lake Marion and I set a camera up 3 feet off the surface of the water, because water's always level. It doesn't matter if it's in a cup or a bathtub, a pond or a lake or the ocean. Water's always level. Water doesn't bend. That's why you put in a level to level things. So I went out there, and 11 miles away from my camera, I set a mirror up on a piece of wood 3 feet above the surface of the water. I went back to the camera, zoomed in on the mirror from 11 miles away. That should be impossible. That proves to me the Earth is not round.
What is that? The cool emits a cool lighting. What is that?
So the sun emits warm light, and they say that the moon's light is reflective light off the sun, so that light should be warm as well. But if we take a thermometer and we measure the moonlight, and then we measure the temperature in the shade, so we take a thermometer and put it in the shade and the moon's light, the moonlight is cooler than the shade. So that means the moon is emitting a cold light, not a warm light. So here's the objects that we took and put in the shade and the direct moonlight. And you see there's a 4 degree temperature difference there in the moonlight and the shade. And that proves that the moon gives off cold light and not warm light, like the sun. So it can't be reflective light from the sun, otherwise it would be warm.
Yeah. Interesting. What is that?
So these are pictures that, you know, NASA and other space agencies around the world have released. And, you know, they're taken at the same time, but none of the colors match. None of the sizes of anything matches. The United States is, you know, twice as large in this one as this one. And then you can see where they copy and paste. It's CGI. You just take a cropping of the picture. You know, it comes with your iPhone. If you have an iPhone, it has the famous blue marble picture on it. And you zoom in and you look. All they did was copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. It's the same cloud, just copy and paste it. It's not real. And then you see the United Nations logo is a symbol for the flat earth. The truth is hiding in plain sight. Every military uses the same flat earth symbol. Why is that?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to do something else.
Let me ask you this question. If you were to leave New York on a flight, it would take you, what, 3.5 hours to get to LA? Now, if you leave from LA and go to New York, it would also take 3.5 hours. If the Earth was spinning at 1,064 miles an hour at the equator, in one direction, the Earth is spinning in the opposite way under the plane. So how's the exact same time on flight? Because the plane is traveling at 500 miles an hour. I've got a demonstration of that here somewhere right here. So if a plane travels at 500 miles an hour, the nose of the plane would have to dip a mile every 2 minutes to keep up with the curvature. Otherwise, the plane would just keep going straight into space, because a gyroscope sets rigidity in space. So if my gyroscope is level and I set my autopilot to maintain level, the Earth should curve below me, but my altitude never changes. So I used to fly with the Civil Air Patrol, and I would do this myself. And these are examples and tests that I can prove the Earth does not curve. You know, firsthand experience. And I've taken flights from New York to South Korea, and you know, like on this map on my shirt, we went from here across this way. You know, because that is a straight line. You know, airlines aren't going to spend a whole bunch of money on extra fuel for no reason. So if the Earth was a globe, we'd have flown in this direction. But we never did. We flew this direction. Even when I went to Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Malaysia.
That's weird.